we're proposing that slab for whatever use is intended in the future to be at about the elevation of the existing grade today, which is elevation 7. There's currently a driveway on this property, and we're practically keeping the same grade that exists. What we propose to do with surface runoff will be to discharge over to the woodland, but for the roof, we propose 2 dry wells, one to the north and one to the south. The proposed driveway is proposed as gravel to allow some of the precipitation to just permeate through the soils. We did find that the soils, as typical it is to Mashpee, it's all sandy soils, and the soils are going to take all the water that this driveway is going to capture. So the curb cut that exists on the property is being the apron is actually paved from Mashpee Neck Road. Although the address for this lot is Captain's Row, the actual access makes more sense to reuse that existing apron. And because we're going to have that underneath area, just have a driveway that goes into a carport. There are no other resources that actually reach 100 feet to the wetland, to this lot. We do have some 100-foot buffers that come just outside of our lot, and those are to salt marshes that are over to the east, associated with Papaneset Bay, and then to the south, associated with the town's landing. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you. Drew, comments?
Yeah, just to show you some visual representation of the project area here. You can see this is the lot here, 48 Captain's Row, sandwiched between Mashpee Neck Road and Captain's Row. So it is an undeveloped lot, as Raul described. The resource area is applicable to this lot, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and then buffer zone to coastal bank. And just to add on to the coastal bank designation here, it is a non-eroding landform slope definition coastal bank, so it is not a sediment source coastal bank as far as performance standards are concerned. So here you can see, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, this is the salt marsh across the street from Mashpee Neck Road that Raul had pointed out. The 100-foot buffer is actually short of the project area. And then again down here, you've got resource areas, bank, coastal beach, I guess you would call this area here, and then again salt marsh down here by the landing. And again, those 100-foot buffer zones are outside of the project scope. So it is within the land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is why you saw that, going back to that plan, this area here highlighted in green to meet regulation 25 performance standards, land subject to coastal storm flow as a naturally vegetated portion of the lot that's highlighted in green here. And I agree that that's the right area. If you're going to locate that buffer strip, this is probably the best area for it, given the nearby resource areas that are delineated on the plan. So going back to, just to show you the commission some images of the property. Not really much to glean from them. It's just an undeveloped lot, but there was some degree of existing disturbance. The driveway apron here in the lower right image, and just your standard mix of typical native vegetation for this area. And as described by Raul, the main performance standard that is being adhered to is that buffer strip, no adverse impact to coastal bank, stability of bank, and it's outside the 100-foot buffer zone to salt marsh, BVW, and coastal beach. So it meets all of the performance standards that apply, and no other comments. And nobody has called in from the public on this application yet.
Thank you, Drew. Are there questions from the commissioners?
Oh, I did have, sorry, Board of Health comments. Project is not in a Zone 2 water recharge area. Plans have been submitted to the Board of Health for review.
Thank you, Drew. There are no questions from the audience, from the commissioners. I will entertain a motion. This is a notice of intent. hear a motion?
Do we close the issue? Is this one for closing the issue?
Yeah, it's a notice of intent.
So close and issue.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to close the 6 p.m. hearing of Michelle Albanese and trustees, 48 Captain Row.
Do I hear a second? Everyone's staying on mute tonight. There we go. All right, that's a second. Voting, Tom.
Aye.
Paul.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Brad.
Brad? I don't know if Brad,
Probably on mute. I can see him talking.
I think he's searching for,
He had his phone up. I think maybe he's not able to hear us.
yeah, I think he's dialing the number again. Give it a moment.
Yep. Brad, if you hold your hand up, we'll count that as a yes.
Brad, can you hear us?
He doesn't look happy.
Brad?
Really is calling IT help for Zoom.
He's on Zoom, it's just the audio. Oh, there we go, Brad.
Yes.
Okay.
And I vote aye as well. Close an issue.
Thank you, Raul.
Thank you. Now calling the 603 hearing for Roger Schiffman and Patricia Donnelly, 4 Mute Swan Circle. This is a proposed amendment to the order of conditions to modify pool and patio area. Raul Lizardi Rivera, Cape and Islands Engineering. This was continued from December 17th of last year.
Mr. Chairman, I have to recuse myself from this hearing, this item.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Raul, please go ahead.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant. The project was issued an order of condition. Currently, the lot is a vacant lot, and it was issued an order of conditions for a single-family residence and a pool patio, pool house, and pier. The site has also received a prior notice of order of condition for some landscaping development that happened on the property some years ago. So the one order of condition that we're modifying is the one for the house. What changed here is in particular to the house and the pool area. The pier itself is going to remain the same as it was approved last year. I'm looking at the plan that Drew is showing, but I'm seeing that that's not the latest one. I hope Drew, did you get the latest one?
I must have brought up the wrong one, Raul. Do you happen to have the latest one to share?
I do have the latest one. Let me open it up to make sure that I do have it.
Okay. Let me know and then I'll stop sharing.
do have it, Drew.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing now.
All right, let me see about sharing my screen. Don't know if I'm sharing my screen at the moment. Am I sharing my screen?
You are,
Yep.
we can see it.
Increase the
All right, so the project has been revised to actually move the house 5.7 feet away from the retaining wall. The retaining wall that was proposed and approved last year, for the most part, stays the same. Actually, the one plan that I'm actually referring right now is the one that was approved last year. So this is a plan that was approved last year. The house has moved back. The pool has moved to the corner. Let me make sure I open the right plan. I'll have to reshare my screen because I now have the new plan in front of me. So the house has moved about 6 feet back. The patio for the pool has been redesigned. The pool house has been relocated completely outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. The pool, which now includes the spa within the footprint of the pool, has been located to the bottom corner of the lot. The pool at the same time has been tugged against the retaining wall. In the past, the retaining wall had a set of stairs, which is actually built on the ground today. There was a set of stairs proposed and approved here. That stair is going to be removed because the homeowner wants the stair now more centralized with the location of the house, and it's going to be cut into the wall in this location. The one that's here is going to be removed. The wall was approved that was switching to an angle point here. That whole length of wall has been removed, and it's now ending with just a little 45 angle and about a 10-foot angle point for the wall. The rest of this grading can be done just by grading and no need for retaining walls. So in essence, we have removed some patios, and now we're proposing some landscape between the pool patio and the proposed landscape wall. This wall is about 3 foot tall, but it is holding the patio and it is holding the proposed pool. The pool patio, in terms of square footage, we had to keep it the same behind the retaining wall. That's why some of these landscape areas suddenly became available. Before, the pool patio was stretching all the way up against the wall. That is not the case anymore. So we actually increased about 430 square feet of landscape area within the area that was previously approved for pool patio. The entire house is shifted, so all the setbacks that we previously got approvals for between the house and the salt marsh and the coastal bank, they all got increased. The pool was the closest structure to the coastal bank at 50 feet, and that's what we're still keeping to maintain, 50 feet. The area between the limit of work, which has not changed from what was approved, and the retaining wall will still be replanted with some native species, and it's going to be controlled with some erosion control blankets because the slope is about 3 to 1. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you. Drew, comments?
Yeah, Raul, if you want to stop screen share, and I'll go back to mine. Thank you. So just to go back to show the lot here, this is, you should all be pretty familiar with this one. This was the undeveloped lot, the screenshot GIS showing before any development took place, and subsequent house was constructed, approved, issued an order conditions for construction with the pool and patio. Going down to the images of the lot here. Top left shows a shot from the cul-de-sac, which is in the background here, looking out towards the coastal bank. That's top left, top right, just showing the house, the revised staking of the house footprint, and in the background, there's the existing retaining wall, which had since been constructed. Bottom left, just another vantage point looking out at the retaining wall and the backfill in this area here.
I'm not seeing anything, Drew.
Oh, nobody's seeing anything?
Yeah,
Drew, I don't think you're sharing.
Anybody else, but I'm not.
All right, let me,
Could be me.
no, hold on.
yeah, I can see Drew twice. Oh, here it comes.
Okay, there we go, all right.
Oh, okay. You have pictures.
Nothing's ever smooth, ever. All right, so, again, just top left, this is the shot from the cul-de-sac looking out at the cleared lot. This was, as everybody knows, issued an order of conditions. This is an amended request for a change in the pool patio footprint and overall design. So this is looking out at the coastal bank, top left, top right, just a closer shot with the new house staking and the existing retaining wall in the background. Bottom left, different vantage point, again, looking at some additional staking for the house footprint. And there's the retaining wall. And then bottom right, you can see the retaining wall here and that 3-to-1 slope Raoul referenced, which has already been planted and stabilized. And then just a couple more images showing the remaining portion of the bank here. There's that 3-to-1 slope and some of the plantings that have been installed as mitigation. So one of the things, Raoul, and I know I don't have to have you reshare the plan, but when it comes to showing setbacks to the pool, as you know, under the Wetlands Protection Act, structure is also patio. So when we see setback lines to pool edge instead of patio edge, that's really where we want to see setbacks, not building department setbacks, but conservation setbacks. So just a point of reference in the future, when you're going to show those 50-foot lines, they go to the edge of structure, not edge of pool. Not a big deal here. It's just a reminder because we're, different definition of structure than the building department. And patio is structure under the Wetlands Protection Act. So not much more to add. It's a relatively minor change. I think it's a better change overall with less semi-pervious structure, patio, and incorporation of more landscape areas in a new revised patio footprint. The shift of the pool is just really, homeowner choice. It doesn't change the setbacks on the previously approved project. But there is less overall square footage of patio in the revised design. And Raoul, am I correct in saying the retaining wall is maintained in the same position as it was previously approved? Is that correct?
Except for the south portion from where the proposed stairs was approved.
Yeah.
That portion and that wrapping around the south side.
Yeah.
That has been eliminated and is now just a little 45 10-footer.
Okay. So that's the difference here. This area here where it was proposed to bump out, that's been eliminated. Right. Yep. Okay. That's it for comments. I don't have anything else to add. It still meets the same performance standards, coastal bank, buffer zone to coastal bank, and no other comments, and nobody has called in from the public.
All right, questions from the commissioners? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. This is an amended order of conditions.
Move for approval to the amended order of conditions 43-3036.
Thank you, Brad. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Paul. Voting, Tom.
He's recused.
Yeah, Tom's recused.
Recused. Yep. Paul.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
I'll vote aye as well. Motion carries. Now opening the 606 hearing for Lawrence M. and Nancy J. Travers, 33 Fiddler Crab Lane, proposed septic system upgrade. Representative is John Doyle from J. Doyle Associates. This is continued from December 17th due to a scheduling conflict. This is an RDA.
John Doyle, are you on the line? John Doyle? I'm going to put up the phone number. I see you, Nancy, and I know you're on the line. We're just trying to get John connected to audio. And Nancy, I don't know if you have a way of getting in touch with John Doyle, but this is the number he needs to call.
Oh, okay. We can try and reach him right now.
If you can, yeah.
Yeah.
I have invited him to the meeting. He just can't hear us.
Okay. Larry's trying to reach him right now.
Okay, thank you.
Do I need to do anything on the Zoom, or do I need to mute?
No, well, you can, it's fine. There's no feedback or anything, so you're good.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, John Doyle?
Yeah, this is me.
Oh, hi. Okay, we're ready for your presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Should I stay on the line?
Yeah, you're going to be presenting this project, 33 Fiddler Crab Lane.
Okay.
The commission just opened the hearing, so whenever you're ready.
You're on.
Yeah, so, let me get rid of this other phone here for you. I represent, my name is John Doyle. I represent Larry and Nancy Travers of 33 Fiddler Crab Lane. They purchased this property about a year ago. It's in New Seabury. The east or seaward side of the house abuts Papaneset Bay. They purchased, the house is about, on a lot, about 16,000 square feet. When they purchased the house, the septic system had failed. There are 3 cesspools on the property. So over the last 6 to 8 months, we did all the necessary surveying, perk tests and so forth, and talked it over with Glenn, and we have 3 failed cesspools on the property. 2 of those failed cesspools are on the seaward side of the house. The other cesspool, there's small circles shown in your plan with a C inside of them. And the other one on the landward side is near the new SAS. So what we're proposing to do is abandon the 3 cesspools, set up some erosion control either side of the house, put a new tank in, tie together the exit pipes outside the house, direct them to a new 1,500-gallon tank and to a distribution box and an SAS, which you see out near the street. And with this works out in this location, with us being able to work around the gas line to the north, the water service to the south, and the electric service and the telephone to the south. So that's basically it. We would stay landward of the erosion control, and that would act as a work limit, and only cross it probably for a half a day to go out and slurry in some fill into the failed cesspools, which are on the seaward side of the house, near the top of the coastal bank. That's pretty much it. This has been reviewed by Glenn Harrington of the Health Department and approved. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Drew, comments?
Just to show you some imagery of the existing conditions on the lot. So, top left, this is a view from the street, Fiddler Crab Lane, looking at the house. So you got a gravel driveway a horseshoe-shaped driveway that wraps around. This image here, the top left, shows where most of the work is taking place. This is going to be the SAS system in this island here between the house and the driveway. A couple of pitch pines and other vegetation, some ornamentals will need to be removed to accommodate the leach field. a few of these pines are actually should be removed even if this work wasn't occurring, as they're pretty hazardous. Moving over to the top right image, just another viewpoint looking where the SAS system is going to go, and then over here in this area is pretty close to where the work limit is going to extend out, and similar on the other side of the home, which you can see here in the bottom right image. This is near where that erosion control John had pointed out in the plan earlier. Just a couple more shots. Again, opposite side of the house here, there's that work limit area. So with the exception of filling in and abandoning the tanks that are on the water side of the home, which in top right image here, they're roughly right around the top of the bank here. And then just showing you the resource areas, bottom left, this is coastal bank where the lawn is, and then just below this retaining wall here, you've got bordering vegetated wetland transitioning to salt marsh, and then land under ocean. So the only minor disturbances, as John had noted in his presentation, here along the coastal bank, and all dealing with just lawn area, just digging in and filling in the abandoned tanks back here on the seaward side of the home. So as John had mentioned earlier, Zone 2 Board of Health project is within a Zone 2 water recharge area. Plans have been submitted to Board of Health for review, and no other comments. I will just say, just because Nancy, I know you're part of this hearing, is that the hazardous tree removal is being dealt with separately from this application. I'm aware that you've got hazardous trees. We met on the property, and we will deal with that administratively. It's just not part of this application.
That's fine.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. No other comments?
Thank you, Drew. Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Hearing none, is there any from the audience?
I have a question, Chad.
Go ahead.
When that fill gets slurried into the failed cesspools on the seaward side, what do we have around that for protection?
Yeah, John Doyle, can you explain like the methodology there when it comes to filling in those abandoned tanks? Like,
Yeah, we need to do some pumping when we first get there, so we probably pump those at the same time as the front one, and during the process, it'll probably dry out a little too, and then we'll go in to the one on the northeast side. We're probably going to just pop the cover, go up there, and do it with a bobcat. I don't think it's steep enough to really worry with that one about it going down the bank. I know we would choose a day where obviously there isn't some major storm, but I think it can be done pretty carefully and neatly. And then the other one on the southerly end of the deck, you can see. If you go back to, if you can, please, can you go back to the photograph you had showing the deck? Because that, I could probably explain it a little more clearly. Yeah, up in front of the deck, there's a rhododendron, and there's a little retaining wall. Yes, right there, where you are. And that is, right where that rhododendron is, up on that level, there's a bird bath which is sitting on top of that cesspool cover. So in that spot right there, we'll probably approach it, pull back some of the rhododendrons so that we could get to the cover. It's only about 1 foot in from the top of the wall. There's a riser on it, and we'll fill from there. And if you'd like me to set something up temporary for that half a day, I can, but I don't think it's necessary to really set something up for that, unless we did it on a really lousy day, you know. I'm open to any suggestions from the board, though.
what do you anticipate the timeline for that particular location, John?
About 4 hours.
4 hours, okay.
Yeah.
maybe like a silt sock or something like that can be staked in for that time period. Doesn't have to be.
Like a wattle or something?
A wattle, I think, would be sufficient. Yep. Yeah.
Okay, I would certainly concede to doing that, for my client, to the board.
I think that would be good. It's just a just in case thing.
Yep.
Okay, I will pass that on.
Other questions from the commission? Is there anyone from the audience?
Nobody has called in on this application.
All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion. This is a RDA.
Move for negative determination in regards to the application of Lawrence and Nancy Travers at 33 Fiddler Crab Lane.
Thank you, Brad. Do I hear a second?
Again.
Thank you. Voting, Tom.
Aye.
Paul.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you, John and Nancy.
Thank you very much for your help, folks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the 609 hearing. 128 Uncle Percy's Road, proposed additions to existing dwelling, construction of garage, hardscape, and landscape modifications with mitigation plantings.
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself on this item.
Understood, Mr. Vice Chairman. Thank you. We have Raul Lazardi here from Cape and Islands Engineering. This is an NO1.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands, representing the applicant Roger and Karen Leslie. The project is a redevelopment of the existing single-family residence. The house is currently serviced by a raised septic system. So the front of the house is actually a big retaining wall, which is housing behind it the septic system. It has both the septic tank, the D-night system, and the leaching field, all within the inside of that retaining wall. The project is to provide some additions to the existing house. In the front of the house, there'll be a front porch with stairs to go up to that front porch. There will be a new garage within the area of the existing driveway, and then there will be a connection constructed between the new garage and the existing house. In addition, there will be a second story to this house. This house is a one-story house, and the homeowner wants to add a second story to this house. The second story is going to have a balcony, but that balcony will be overhanging over the existing first-floor deck. This is an existing house that has a walkout, and the resources within 100 feet of the property and on the property are Dean's Pond. There is a BBW associated with Dean's Pond. Also, across the street, there's another wetland that used to be part of the BBW to Dean's Pond. It's just that it's being interrupted by the development of Uncle Percy's Road. But it is part of that same wetland system. Also, the whole property is within land subject to coastal storm flowage. The project will trigger mitigation requirements because we are proposing to increase structures within the buffer zones to the BBW. There's the first section of 50 feet with incrementals of 5 feet for calculations of mitigation. And then there's the 50 to 100 feet with calculations of 1-to-1 for the purpose of mitigation areas. In the plan, there is a kind of light pinkish, which is representing the existing house footprint. And then there's a darker sort of brownish patch that is representing the proposed additions. There is a green area within the northeast of the property. That's what we're proposing, the 500 square foot of mitigation that we calculated for this project. Also, not part of the required mitigation, but something that we are proposing with this project is the abandoning of some of the maintenance of lawn areas beyond the property line to the north, which is actually mowing into the wetlands. The line is representing the BVW, and in the past, the homeowners have been mowing this area. Even though it is a wetland, it's been mowed, and what we're proposing to do is to stop doing any of that maintenance and allow it to go back into a natural state. In that area, there's also some other miscellaneous stacked items on the property, outside of the property, so we're proposing for it to be abandoned. I do have a graphic for how we calculated the mitigation areas. If the board wants me to share it, I'll be happy to share it and explain it, but if not, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Has PBA been made aware of your request to let the area, whatever direction it is, I guess it's to the northeast, be abandoned? The PBA is pretty aggressive in maintaining some of these areas that are not cleared as that they fit on a lot. I don't know whether the PBA is involved with that or not, but someone should at least make them aware that they should stay away from that area if this is approved.
Understood. We haven't actually talked to them, but what we recommend is for the homeowner, if it is the homeowner who's doing this maintenance, to not continue doing so.
Okay, as long as someone's been made aware and ask the homeowner to also bring PBA into the conversation.
Yeah, Brad, just to add on to that, I don't think PBA is aware of it, and obviously it's, it behooves the homeowner to not do that, not only for PBA's concern, but the Wetlands Protection Act as well. I agree that this area, both Caitlin and I have been out there, and I think it would be best served to just allow to grow back rather than trying to go in and deal with, mitigation. It's really just a series of mowing that's taken place in this wetland area that I'm highlighting right now. So this, as far as any use from PBA for this area for access around Dean's Pond, they pretty much cut off the access further south down here. Brad, they don't have any pathways coming through here or public access linking up to Uncle Percy's Road. We actually looked at this with PBA, and it's just too much wetland, too much wet conditions to even make such a pathway or access for the public feasible in this area. So, I think that what they're proposing to do is just, straight up common sense. Just stop violating the Wetlands Protection Act and don't go on to other people's property. So, as far as the project, just to show you some imagery here. This is top left showing the existing home. There's the retaining wall. Looking at the home here, and this is the driveway to the left of the home in the top left image. Another shot of the driveway here. This is where the garage is proposed in this area of the driveway here, and then that connecting addition here along the side of the home. Looking at the backyard, this is where the mitigation area is, where you see that green flag. That's going to be all mitigation. This wood pile is going to get removed. There's some other debris that's close to the wetland border right here. All of that is going to be taken out. Any structure belonging to the homeowners that are across property lines onto PBA will be completely removed, and we'll make sure that that's the case. And then just another shot looking at the backyard facing towards that side wetland. There's the wood pile, the grill. So all of that, if it happens to go across the property boundary, all of that will be pulled back and found other locations on the subject property to be stored. A couple more images here. Again, just another shot of the backyard here. It's mostly lawn transitioning to BVW, which you can see in the top right photo. There's all the BVW back there associated with Dean's Pond in the background. Then just another shot. This is that wetland behind some of the shrubbery over here. That's PBA property. And then looking at the front yard, this is where those other additions that you saw highlighted in brown on the plan are going on the front of the home. So if the commission, I'll stop there. If the commission wants to see the calculation chart, we did review it, and it meets all of the mitigation calculation standards. under the waiver section. So it does check out as far as the square footage that's being offered up. And I think, you know, from my own take on the mowing in the wetlands, there's been no tree removal. It's really just mowing of the underbrush, and I think that rather than getting into a whole situation of issuing a violation notice, dealing with PBA, dealing with the homeowner, the best thing to do is just abandon the activity and let that growth come back. We can continue to look at that area, and if it doesn't look like it's coming back, then we can deal with it at that time. But I think it's at least a good initial strategy and see how it pans out. That's my recommendation for that aspect of this project.
Sounds good. Very well, thank you, Drew. Comments from the commissioners?
What comments you got?
All right, hearing none. Is there anyone in the audience?
Nobody has called in on the application.
All right.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Board of Health, just real quick. Project is in a Zone 2, Title 5 inspection is required for the increase in footprint. Septic permit is for a maximum of 3 bedrooms. Floor plans will be reviewed upon submittal to the building department.
Very well, thank you, Drew. Hearing no comments, I'll entertain a motion. This is a notice of intent.
We move that we close the issue in regard to the application of Roger and Karen Leslie at 128 Uncle Percy's Road.
Thank you, Brad. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Voting, Paul.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raul.
Now calling the 612 hearing for Michael and Sherry L. Pugach, 25 Starboard Lane, proposed removal of a patio to be replaced with construction of a deck. Representative Wayne Tavers, Wet Tech Land Design. This is an RDA.
Yes, hi. Good evening.
Good evening. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
Sure. My name is Wayne Tavares. I'm a landscape architect. I'm representing the 25 Starboard Lane property of the Pugaches for Michael Duffany and builders as well. We have a deck that we would propose to put on here. We've done the delineation. Thank you, Drew.
Yeah. Let me turn the image around.
Very helpful. Yeah, we're on Papaneset, right on Nantucket Sound, so we're one house removed from the coastal bank. The color area here is a new deck, and it sits over. We're trying to make it as big as possible.
Yep,
so,
there we go.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And you can see the colored area here is a deck, as opposed to the brick patio that sits there now. The brick patio is to be removed in favor of the deck. The deck resides between the 82 and the 97 foot from the coastal bank. As you can see the coastal bank delineated to the right, the 50 foot, and the 100 foot is right through the house. So the deck is pretty far away. It's pretty high. The elevation is above floodplain. And the deck will be anchored with, as easily as possible, I suppose, with these new tripod system stanchions that would go under the deck and support it up. Other than that, there's some stairways that come off of the house that go down to the deck. There's 322 square feet approximately of new deck in this area. And that constitutes the whole project. There is no need for mitigation. I've discussed this with Drew. And we're basically replacing an in-ground patio with an above-ground deck. So if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Drew, comments?
So just to review some imagery related to the project, this is the highlighted parcel on Starboard Lane, 25 Starboard Lane. You can see it's not directly abutting the resource areas, but there's coastal bank around the property that wraps around here within the layout of Waiting Place Road here. Then you've got coastal bank fronting 31 Starboard, transitioning to coastal beach and land under ocean. Moving over to the photographs, top left, this is probably the best shot to give you an idea of what's happening here. Top left and top right, there's the brick patio. There's the side of the house facing out towards Waiting Place. And as you can see, this is all existing hardscaping, landscaping, gravel driveways, steps leading up to that patio area that's being proposed to be transitioned to a deck. Again, just another shot here looking at the staking. There's the brick patio, the existing steps, and then just another view here, again looking at the staking for the proposed deck area and some of the resource area setbacks. So pretty straightforward, just a shift in one type of hardscaping for another, and meets all of the performance standards as Wayne had described. It's within the 100-foot setback to coastal bank, but outside the 50-foot, and so it doesn't trigger any sort of mitigation and is occupying similar footprint as the existing hardscaping. So does not trigger mitigation and does not, is not going to cause any sort of adverse impact to the performance standards for coastal bank. So we recommend a negative determination.
Thank you, Drew. Questions, comments from the commissioners? Hearing none, is there any in the audience?
Nobody has called in on this one.
All right, we'll entertain a motion. This is a request for determination.
Move for a negative determination in regards to the application of Michael and Sherry Pugach at 25 Starbridge Lane.
Thank you, Brad. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Voting, Tom.
Aye.
Paul.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
Brad.
Yes.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Everybody have a happy new year and please stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Wayne.
Thank you. Gentlemen, at this time, I need to remove myself from the meeting and attend the Community Preservation Committee meeting, of which I'm a member representing this board. So, Tom, if you wouldn't mind taking over at the 6:15, I will butt out.
All right, so we'll open the 6:15 hearing for Gary and Denise Nagel, 31 Birch Way, proposed construction expansion of existing deck and construction of second-story balcony to existing dwelling, represented by Michael Ball.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Mike.
All right, good evening, Drew, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Mike Ball from MME, here representing Gary and Denise Nagel of 31 Birch Way. They are proposing a demolition and a reconstruction of an old deck on the pond side of their house. Drew's thrown up some photos there. You can see they've got a deck that transitions into an old, what looks like a flagstone patio. And Cotuit Bay Design just put a nice plan together for a rebuilt, expanded deck. There will be no increase in hardscape as the footprint of the new deck will extend over the existing patio, but won't extend beyond it. So, yeah. And so the resource areas are inland banks, the top of which is at the very top of that slope. That's actually your locally defined inland bank, top of a 4-to-1 slope. The state-defined bank is all the way down at the bottom of the bank. But it is a stable bank. We do, as you can see, have steps leading down to an existing pier. No work is proposed on the deck. No native vegetation will be removed on the bank or in the 50-foot buffer. And as I mentioned, no additional hardscape. So we did receive our DEP file number this afternoon with no comments. We are waiting for the letter from Natural Heritage as the priority habitat boundary extends up the bank and through most of the residences along the pond shore. So estimated habitat extends to the toe of the slope, right? And then priority habitat extends all the way up onto the bank and through the house. So we have sent a copy of the notice of intent to Natural Heritage, and we're within their 30-day window for review. So it'll take probably another week, maybe another 2 for us to get comment back from them. But I do expect there to be a determination of no take, no impact. As you can see, the top of the bank there and landward is not habitat for much of anything other than people. So with that, I'd love to answer any questions.
So just to review some imagery here, you've got the kind of dry laid patio going up. There's the top of the bank, roughly right in this location, looking at the top left photo. Top of bank running right along here. There's the stairway that goes down the bank towards Mashpee Wakeby Pond in the background. Just another view over here, looking at where the existing deck comes out to meet the dry laid patio. So this is the area of expanded footprint, the existing footprint of the patio here, top left, and then this deck being replaced with a larger deck, but occupying no further outside than the existing footprint of the patio here. Again, just looking at another vantage point, bottom left of the existing deck, and you've got some ornamental plantings here in the foreground, and then just another shot of the patio, dry laid patio here. In front of the existing deck. So it is a notice because of the proximity to top of inland bank, but no part of this expansion is getting closer to the coastal bank than the existing patio. So it's basically kind of similar to the previous application, one type of structure replacing another. So not much more to add to it. It meets the performance standards for inland bank. One of the things, Mike, that Cynthia just wanted to point out, she wanted to remind you to, in section 3 of the notice, buffer zone only, it asks for buffer zone impacts, shortest distance between limit of project disturbance and the wetland resource area specified under 310 CMR 10.021A, linear feet. So if you can provide that information in the application to make that complete.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry. It's she highlighted that a proof of a butter notification and mailing.
Yeah, I got them
You got
here.
it? Okay,
I didn't
you
have
got
a
it.
chance to swing them down or scan them, but they're here.
All right, good. All right, nothing else to add. I have no further comments, and I do recommend to close an issue.
Does anyone else have anything to say, commissioners?
No.
Oh. Then I'll make a motion to close the issue of Gary and Denise Nagel, 31 Birch Way.
I'll second that.
So second. Voting, Brian?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
And I'll vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank you all very much. Good night.
Thank you, Mike.
Drew, do you want to go on to?
Yeah, I'll go into the pre-post agenda. We're going to go bring Andrew Garreley in. He's going to represent an administrative approval request, and I'm going to bring him into the meeting now. And Andrew, I just invited you into the meeting, so you should be showing up right now.
Okie doke.
And I'm going to get to the imagery that I've got here. Just give me 1 second.
All right.
Okay. So this is a request for administrative approval. This is 14 Bowsprit Point, DEP file number 43-3059. Andrew Garreley representing the applicant.
Yes, this is
is Andrew Garrelay, registered landscape architect, representing the Spurzo family. I don't know if I'm interrupting you, Drew. Are you going to say something more?
Oh, no, you can take it away, Andrew.
Okay. Yes. So this house was approved for raise and replace. I think it was back in the spring or so, and I got involved just after it went through with you guys, and I did the mitigation planting plan for the backyard. Recently, the builder asked me to have a look at the driveway that was designed for this property because they felt like it wasn't very well designed. And I evaluated it, and I agreed it wasn't very well designed. One of the problems is that the garage is located at very near a corner of the property of the abutter, just in front of the left front part of that garage, about 25 feet away is the corner of the lot. That's the abutter's lot where the little hand is right now, and the abutter's pool shed, I think, is where the little hand is right there. So one of the problems was, and I should point out, the red line on here was the approved driveway, that double red line. That's the approved driveway, and it doesn't have much rhyme or reason when you come in. If you notice where the curb cut is, it's all the way to the right side of the property, and that was using an existing curb cut. And what I found was if you were to, as I evaluated this, I've done a lot of parking lot design and obviously a lot of driveway designs as well. So what happens is you come into this parking lot or into the driveway. It was really difficult to get into the left side of that garage, and quite honestly, it still is. It's a little bit better as I've designed it. You can see I widened it a little bit there so that the back end of the car can get moved over enough such that it can get into that left driveway bay. But the other thing that was really a problem here was as somebody pulls into the driveway, there's no rhyme or reason on where you're going to park. And even though there's space enough for cars, once two cars get in, it's really hard for a third car to park. And then when somebody goes to leave, there's no way to turn around. It's just very, very awkward. So I tried to reorganize the parking so that we could park 3 cars to the right side. In order to do that, I felt like I had to give it a little bit of a visual cue, so I have cobble runners in the 3 parking spaces. Up closer to the house, So I reduced the amount of driveway on the lot so that the cars are more organized. But in order to get into those parking spaces, I had to center the driveway more to the middle of the lot. The problem is we have 2 oak trees there, a 20-inch oak tree, and I think it's a 16-inch oak tree. And just south of that 16-inch oak tree is a guy wire for an electric pole. But that's going to remain. But unfortunately, the trees are in the way of entering this parking lot, or driveway, I should say. So also, I needed to make it wide enough so that if you were to back out of one of those parking spaces where the cobbles are, if you drove straight back, you'd be able to go forward and turn the nose of the car to get back out to Bowsprit. Bowsprit, too, is a very narrow road. I don't know if you've been down there. It's extremely narrow, and with that narrow curb cut in the driveway and the narrow road, it makes it very difficult for somebody to pull in if they were in a bigger vehicle, a delivery truck or something like that. So my thought was to center the driveway. I had to make it wider as I was trying to make it so a car could turn around. So the long and short of it is we're reducing the amount of driveway on the property. This is only in a flood zone at this point. It's outside of the 100-foot setback to the salt marsh and coastal bank, but it's still in a flood zone. So therefore, we need to get the permission to remove those 2 trees. And for mitigation, I'm proposing on the back of the lot, on the resource area side of the lot, to add 2 more cedar trees. That's what's shown in red right there. And those are 8 to 10 foot eastern red cedars. I've got them off to the side to keep them out of the view. That view is already kind of plugged up there with an existing cedar and another cedar that's going in as part of that mitigation. So I'm hoping that's going to be an adequate mitigation. I think it's going to be contiguous with that other mitigation. I think it's an improvement to that side of it. Of course, it's always a negative to lose good-sized oak trees, even though they're far from the resource area. They still are in the flood zone. And however, there are some other trees, as you can see, south of the driveway that are going to be remaining. 16-inch oak tree, some cedar trees there as well. And north of the driveway, there's some existing trees, and they're not coming down either. So that's, and I should mention, there's an overall reduction in driveway. Most of it is on, there's a lot of reduction on the site itself. Of course, there's a little bit of expansion in the road layout where the curb cut is. But all in all, it is a reduction. The driveway is crushed stone? Yes, it is. Will those, the little parking spots that you have there on the top of the picture that I'm looking at, or the plan that I'm looking at, is that going to be cobble? Those are cobble strips, yes. And that's mostly as a visual cue. So when somebody pulls into the driveway, they don't just park at a weird angle and screw it all up. And that way they'll land on those. They'll land on those, and then each car will be able to back out, turn the nose of the car out to Bowsprit Point, and drive out. Everything's organized. Whole driveway just the driveway's pervious, except for the cobble, obviously. Yeah. Right.
Hey, just to show some images of the. Again, there's a lot. This is the previously existing driveway layout before any work was done on the lot here. You can see this is what it looked like before it was brought to the commission for the changes overall on this project, and looking at some imagery here. These are the trees that are flagged. You can see top left where the outhouse is located. Those are the trees. That's where the driveway expansion is coming out. And by the way, we did get a letter from ARC, a local association, rather, that is fine with all of this work because part of it is taking place within the road layout and off the subject property. So we just wanted to get that documented, that everything was copacetic there. Just another shot inside the graded driveway here, looking out towards the road. You can see the trees there again in the background, and this is the tight cul-de-sac area that you have to deal with at the end of Bowsprit Point. If anyone's been there, it is tight, especially with larger vehicles, to get around the circle and just that overall area with the trees and utility wires. It's a pretty tight area. Shot out here, this is where the mitigation is taking place. You've got the erosion control in the foreground there, bottom left photo. A couple of dead cedars here, but there will be 2 new cedars here, and this whole area is going to be supplemented with mitigation plantings out here by the water and by the coastal bank. And again, just another shot of that area with the silt fencing as they're prepping the property for the reconstruction of the existing home. So it is an administrative approval request. We had this come before the commission because it's all taking place in a previously approved area under an issued order of conditions, but it's a minor change in the scope of the project. So we always have those types of applications come before you for review, as opposed to our normal administrative processes looking at hazardous trees and things of that nature. So the motion would be, for administrative approval as the permitting process. No other comments. Tom?
Do we have to vote on this?
Yeah, the motion would include the term administrative approval.
Okay, so I'll make a motion, do we say close this issue?
No, to administratively approve.
Okay, to administrative approve the changes to at 14 Bowsprit Point, as outlined in the latest plan by Andrew Gurley. Do I hear a second? Anyone second, please?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Paul. Voting, Paul,
Yes.
Brad, going to Brian,
Yes.
Brad. I don't think speaking louder will help us. Wait.
Wave at him. Brad. Hey. He's ignoring us. He's mad at us.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
I think he's dialing in now, hopefully.
These young kids today, they're always playing with their phones.
Yeah. We almost got through it.
Almost. Right on the cusp. I wonder if he knows. Yes.
I don't think
Maybe you need to put that on the big screen instead of on the side. Well, at least on mine, it's off to the side.
Yeah, he's got his phone in his hand. He must know that he's cut off.
I can only imagine.
I could walk over to Amy Brown Road.
Oh, boy. Well, you've got, let's see, how many commissioners are here? There's
We've got three. Three votes, yeah.
3 votes, and there's a total of 4 commissioners?
Yep.
Correct? That's a quorum, so that's, that'll go for the record. Katrina, we have a quorum for this. We're good to go without Brad.
He's technically abstained.
Yeah, I guess we'll call it an abstention.
All right.
All right, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yep, no
Have
problem.
a good night, everybody.
Thank you, you too.
Okay, moving on to the updates. The first item that I wanted to, because we discussed this at the last meeting, was any interest in joining a bylaw review committee, bylaw and regulatory review committee. We're looking for at least 2 volunteers to join a committee of myself and Caitlin to take a step-by-step look at the regulations and bylaws and see where we can update, improve, or omit old language, non-applicable language. We've been doing this kind of every year in anticipation of town meeting, and we've been making more of kind of like getting rid of outdated information and, any typos or anything like that, but we haven't gotten into the meat of the regulations. And there is a lot to look at, a lot to, assess as far as updating language, changing some of the conditions, performance standards, things like that. Everything would still remain, that we don't see anything that's out of sync with the State Wetlands Protection Act. But just some things that we've picked up along the way in reviewing so many projects that, could take a second look at some of these regulations and help to clarify. And then the other thing that I had brought up was, an overall reformatting of the regulations from a readability standpoint, that they really need to be kind of consistent in their formatting for public reference. So to put it out there, if anyone's given it any thought, I'll just leave it up to the commission to discuss. And as I said, we're looking for at least 2 members. I would cap it probably at 3, but 2 would be the preferred number to join this subcommittee to review regulations and bylaws.
Drew, I'd be happy to volunteer to help out.
Thank you, Paul. Brian, I know you had expressed some interest in doing that as well. Are you still interested?
Yes, I think it would be good to help, go through a lot of the bylaws and stuff with everyone for my own, knowledge and, education as well. So I would definitely be interested.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, Brian and Paul. Is anyone else interested? I mean, 2 is, a good number, but if anyone else is interested, I don't want to make it more than 3. So anyone else, or do we want to leave it with Paul and Brian?
I do remember that Brad had also said he was interested, so you might ask him.
Okay, Brad.
When he's actually
actually listening.
Exactly.
Maybe he isn't. That's why the phone shut off.
but he did speak up when you brought this up the last time. He did have interest.
Okay, I can follow up with Brad, and we'll consider Paul and Brian to be members of this committee, and I'll fill both of you in on, our schedule and just the protocols that are involved with a subcommittee like this. And I appreciate you stepping up to the plate on that. That's great. Okay. And I'll update Brad on everything I'm about to go over at another time. So just an update on the Upper Quashnet restoration. They're starting to do more data collection out there, Horsley Witten Group, and I'll update the commission with any new information that comes forward. And I think Brad just, Brad said he can't seem to get back in. So I'm not sure what's happening there. I'm just going to type a quick message for him. See if he can call the number again. Going to continue to continue with the updates here. I think Brad just had the wrong number. All right. Okay, so Upper Quashnet, nothing new to report other than just continued data collection, and when we get something in, we'll share it with the commissioner. And at some point, once we move into, the finishing stages of the first phase, we'll have Horsley Witten attend our meeting at that time to update the commission on everything they've done up to that point. Does anyone have any questions about the Upper Quashnet restoration? No questions? Okay. Childs River restoration, moving along. We have weekly meetings via Zoom with all the contractors and stakeholders involved in the Childs River, mostly Falmouth Rod and Gun Club, and then Division of Ecological Restoration, and then the contractors themselves who are doing all the heavy equipment usage. And they just finished the pit and mound topography portion of the Garner Bog, which is on Mashpee Concom land. And then, as you know, Childs River transitions into the Falmouth Rod and Gun Club and Town of Falmouth-owned bogs, known as the Farley Bogs. So it's 2 different parcels, but the same project in terms of wetland and river restoration. So again, if anyone hasn't been out there, or if you'd like to schedule a time to go out there with myself or Caitlin, we'd be happy to show you what's happening there. So they're moving along very smoothly. There's been no problems. There's been some discussion about sedimentation as they go through and create this pit and mound topography. and the depth of excavation to make sure that areas, remain wet for a majority of the year, and you don't get a lot of emergent successional pine growth, which is not something they want to have happen there. And this is all great because this is really a template for what we're going to see at Upper Quashnet and what's already taken place over at Coonamessett as well. So you've got 3 projects dealing with river restoration and wetland restoration from abandoned cranberry bog happening all right around the same time, all within minutes of each other. So really great to see. Does anyone have any questions on Childs River? Okay.
No?
Okay. Next item is Red Brook Culvert and Road. Again, we've been meeting via Zoom. Jim Rassman is kind of taking the lead on this. Jim is the stewardship coordinator over at Okoipe Research Reserve, and he's been really great about going out into the field, collecting data on Red Brook Road Culvert and all of the ecosystems, wetland areas north of the culvert and south, just to kind of get an overall picture about what the long-term restoration is going to look like out there. And I think we're very close to finalizing acquisition of this structure by the town. DPW departments are working together in Falmouth and Mashpee to get that done, working with the Office of Dam Safety to update their ownership records, and then working with the surrounding subdivisions to, try and accommodate their concerns, as well as, the risks and hazards that the current situation is posing to the overall roadway and the associated wetlands. So there hasn't been any direct action other than just trying to finalize the ownership status, which will eventually be the town. The current or previous owner, Ken Marsters, obviously has no interest in retaining ownership on that situation. So that's all being worked out, and we'll just continue to update as new information comes in. And if anybody wants to join these Zoom meetings, they're usually once a month. We can send you an invitation to that so you can keep, up to date on the particular details as we work through this. So, are there any questions on that?
No, just a comment. I see it's filled back in with water.
It has.
Yeah.
Looks just
All
like
back
it did before this whole problem started.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't let go again.
Yeah. So we haven't received any complaints lately.
Yeah.
The ducks are happy again.
The ducks are happy again, right?
Yeah.
Chopcheck Bog restoration. Caitlin's been doing an amazing job in applying for this, what's called in lieu fee program, which is from the state of Massachusetts. The funding comes from the Army Corps of Engineers as a mitigation fund for any impacts from Corps projects that really have nothing to do with the Chopcheck Bog, but that's the funding source overall, is from Army Corps of Engineers. And we're nearing the stage of final review for this to take a look at restoring the Chopcheck Bog area, which is roughly 7 acres, back to wetland. We've gotten in touch with the former operator of the bog, the head maintenance guy, who was not the owner. He was hired by the owners to maintain the bogs for many, many years. And he's going to give us information about the history of the bogs, the chemical usage, the sanding, everything that goes along with your typical cranberry bog history and legacy. So his information will be very helpful moving forward in determining what type of wetland restoration and the extent of wetland restoration we can do, because we don't want to add to any kind of water quality issues already existing on Santua Pond. We want to do this to actually improve water quality conditions. And if that's not feasible, if a connection is no longer maintained to the pond, then it would really just be mostly about habitat restoration and restoration of bog to wetland. So all that needs to be determined, but we're working on it. And as I said, Caitlin's done a really great job in working with the folks at the in lieu fee program and getting all the information that they need, researching into the history of the bogs and supplying them with all the information and data that they need so that they can perform their assessment and see what type of restoration we can do out there. And then just another quick side note about Chopcheck, where the barn door, one of the large barn buildings, was damaged, vandalized. DPW has fixed it, painted it, put it back on, and it looks like nothing ever happened. And we've replaced all old locks with new locks. We still have to purchase a gate in one location to prevent vehicles from getting in there. The other gate is pre-existing and we have our own lock on it. The site will be secured from unauthorized vehicle traffic in there eventually, and eventually we'll get a nice sign and formalized parking as well. So all that's being worked on with Chop Jack. The next item I know we've been receiving a lot of complaints about, and we apologize for this. We had DPW go in to do roadside mowing off of Great Hay Road and the extension of Amy Brown inside the Jehu Pond parcel. The equipment they used caused really heavy rutting of the dirt roads throughout that entire parcel, making it very difficult to traverse on foot. Not impossible, but nothing like it was before. DPW has apologized for that. It was work that was requested by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, who owns land in that parcel, as well as Mashpee Conservation and State Fish and Wildlife. This is work that needed to be done. The woody vegetation growth on the sides of the roads was getting very thick, and that's counterproductive to the entire wildfire abatement program that's going on in a number of our parcels. So the work had to take place. It just had some residual impacts as far as the road surface, and within the next week or so, DPW will be going back in and grading everything out to its previously existing condition. But we've had daily complaints of people calling in about the surface of the road. So we're dealing with that as quickly as we possibly can with DPW.
You got a sign up there now, so they don't stop at my house and complain.
Sorry about that, Brad. And then the last item is we just got word from the Association for the Preservation of Cape Cod that there is Phase 3 funding for the Cape Cod Water Resources Restoration Program. This is the program that has already paid for a number of improvements in town, from stormwater runoff at the end of Mashpee Neck Road to the construction of the fish ladder at Santuit Pond, which we know has problems associated with it, but it did fund that project. So they asked, this round 3 of funding deals specifically with salt marsh restoration projects or fish passage. The stormwater element has been taken out of this round of funding. So Caitlin and I and Department of Natural Resources Director Ashley Fisher scoured about looking at any issues with salt marsh restoration around town, and we really couldn't identify anything as far as undersized culverts that are causing any major issues with salt marsh, or identifying projects that would be competitive enough for this round of funding. So we really focused on fish passage, and there are a number of issues with fish passage. First and foremost with the Santuit fish ladder, which is underperforming in terms of water level management and fish passage. So we put that as the number 1 priority, and an urgent priority at that, because Santuit supports a very robust herring run, and that is being compromised every year by the deficient design of this fish ladder. And we've made that abundantly clear. NRCS is well aware of it, and all we really need now is a redesigned plan and funding to put that in place, because it needs to happen ASAP. So hopefully that will be the number 1 consideration, and we've submitted all of this already to APCC and NRCS. The other issues are in the upper Quashnet River, starting with the upper Mashpee River, starting with the outlet cage where it meets Mashpee Wakeby Pond, on down to where it goes through Washburn Pond, south of the Wampanoag Heritage Museum. So there are a couple of old bog sluice structures that are in place, that have been in place for decades, that need to be removed. These structures have caused river widening and bank erosion over the years, which makes the river shallower, which during times of drought makes fish passage compromised. And these are in different areas of the upper Mashpee River, so the way we presented this is to include all of these smaller projects as one large project to improve overall fish passage in this section of the upper Mashpee River. And then if anyone's been to the outlet cage looking downstream from where the river starts and makes its way to Mill Pond and 130, a lot of undercutting and erosion of the bank, which had been restored, again, probably almost 20 years ago, with these, fiber logs, fiber rolls to try and restore the bank. all of that's falling apart now, and it really needs to be restored again. Better and more permanent solutions in that entire stretch. And lastly is the amount of sediment that's pouring into the channel every year requires us to have DPW go in and scoop out sand from that initial outlet channel because it makes the water shallower, which can slow down the flow and also compromise fish passage. So all of these things are related to fish passage so that if there are maintenance issues that aren't dealt with, the situation will just get worse. So we're lumping them all together as one project that involves several individual elements to improve fish passage overall. One of the things that was looked at the upper Quashnet River when it comes to sediment loading are sediment stop dams, certain structures that are underwater, elongating the jetty that comes out of the outlet cage into the pond, and trying to do some things just to slow that sediment down so we don't have to go in every year and dredge it out. So that needs to be done with surveying and, data collection and everything that goes along with it. But those are the two areas of fish passage improvement that we identified, Santua Pond Fish Ladder and Upper Mashpee River, with those individual areas of concern. So that covers all of the updates, and nothing more to add.
Is that competitive, Drew, so that our project is being compared to others?
Yeah, it's difficult to know because we don't know what the other projects are, but from my experience in the first two rounds of funding, they're usually very large-scale projects that result in significant environmental improvement. And I think they use that as the benchmark, for salt marsh restoration and fish passage. So that's why I didn't look at these Upper Mashpee projects as individual projects in and of themselves. That approach would make them much less competitive because they're only dealing with a very small footprint of the river in different areas. Putting them all together as one fish passage improvement project should make it more competitive, I'm hoping. But the Santuit Ladder, I don't think there's any question about the issues there, the importance of fixing that, and the importance of fixing that much sooner than later. That to me is the biggest issue in town as far as fish passage goes, or really any environmental issue that involves wildlife habitat and aquatic habitat. It's just underperforming, and it requires a tremendous amount of work every year to try and improve, and it only results in moderate improvements every time. So it's a situation that really is of the highest priority and urgency. And we're hoping that will give it a lot more weight when it comes to that consideration. So,
yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
And what's the time frame, Drew? When do they announce who gets what?
I think that it was January 15th. Tomorrow is the deadline to submit a revised list of priority projects, and we've done that already. We did that earlier this week. And so I would imagine within the next couple of weeks, they'll go through the assessment process, and then we'll just wait to hear when they have their next correspondence about this. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Drew.
Yes.
What's the estimated budget for that proposal?
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
Do you know if the estimated budget was in the request?
We weren't asked to provide a budget. It was only just listing the priority projects at this stage. I'm sure we will get into the budgeting eventually, but this is just to provide a description of what our top priorities are. That's what we were asked to do.
Okay, the only reason why I ask is because I think that it would be, beneficial to, once we do work on this project, and depending on if we do get, the award or not, it should still be something that, we keep on our radar and try to see if, we can find, other outlets or avenues to fund, this project because, it is a pressing matter and it does need to be done. And, I appreciate all of you guys' hard work into this. So I just want to make sure that, we continue to keep this item, on our agenda or, finding other avenues to find the funding for it. So
Absolutely, Brian. Yeah, I agree entirely. And we will do exactly that for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. No other agenda items, so.
We entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yes, a motion to adjourn, the meeting. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Voting, aye. Paul,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes?
Brian,
Yes.
motion is, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks all, have a great night.
Everyone,
Thank
have a
you,
good
you
night.
too.
Bye-bye.